they know that, in fact, I want to believe I read somewhere the Canadian Health Ministry may have published something about how effective the use of cannabis in the months upon a soldier's return to, out of duty, from active duty to, civilian life, and that there were statistics showing that the acclimation back into society, the success, and they defined success by arrest or divorce or other issues, maintaining their residency. The success rate was like 80% for those that were being treated with cannabis. They're ignoring it, and I agree with you as a strategy because over and over and over again you hear the benefits from veterans as well as a number of other people. But tell us about the, you have done much of the studies and you've written a number of articles about, the cannabinoids and the effects in the brain. You refer to, and I think you refer to it as another position of the fidget to focus principles. Could you elaborate on that and tell a little bit about what that whole concept is?
Yeah, cannabis is useful in treating attention deficit disorder. In fact, Dr. Tom O'Connell, who practices up in Marin County, thinks that almost everybody who benefits from cannabis also has attention deficit disorder. I think he's probably overstating the case, but what's happening there is that the cannabinoids are causing a release of dopamine, which is important in something called retrograde inhibition, which slows down the speed of neurotransmission. If you slow down the speed of neurotransmission, you're going to be able to focus more on the thoughts and ideas and impulses that are coming into the cerebral cortex. And pardon me, what Dr. Ethan Russo, who's the North American medical consultant for GW Pharmaceuticals, and Daniel Piamelli, who's a PhD at UC Irvine and has invented a number of chemicals to interfere with the natural metabolism of the cannabinoids, they believe that people are suffering from a cannabinoid deficiency and that there are different ways of treating the cannabinoid deficiency. In the case of attention deficit disorder, you not only have a cannabinoid deficiency, but you have a free dopamine deficiency, and you probably have an excess of dopamine transporter. And I think that dopamine transporter goes up as a result of facing traumatic events. This becomes really complicated to try to talk about, but the important thing is that what are we treating PTSD with now, or what are we treating attention deficit disorder now? Attention deficit disorder is being treated with stimulants. People are having side effects that they don't like. With cannabis, it not only treats the attention deficit disorder, but they don't have anxiety, they don't have sleep problems, it doesn't interfere with their appetite. What we have here, in my opinion, and I'd love the attorney to speak on this, is we have police officers, legislators, assistant district attorneys, and judges that, in my opinion, are practicing medicine without a license.
I hear you. I say that's a Juris Doctorate, Judge, not a medical degree, right? I'm with you, and it's terrible because, and this is something I wanted. This is a good segue. We're being challenged right now with this. Overwhelming concern of the legislature to define what a bona fide doctor-patient relationship is, as if it's for them to do, and it comes from the doctors. Doctors are never questioned about this. The treatment of patients goes on within the medical profession. No one bats an eye, but for some reason the picking on and the procedures of what goes on. What and from a lawyer's perspective, the way I look at it is I see where the attacks are when a patient is arrested or a caregiver is arrested. They want to find out who the patient is and want to get behind the card and see, how many times they go to the doctor and, how many times they come back. But I know from a lawyer's perspective, I have a very, specific vision of how I would like that whole relationship to be. And it can, and we know what that is, but. What do you recommend as a from a physician perspective, and how would a doctor integrate it into their practice who would be concerned?
Well, you've ask a question that, if you give me a little time here, I'll get into, because I've given a lot of thought on this. First off, when Dr. Frank Lucido, who actually graduated from medical school in the state of Michigan and still comes back there and gives some talks, when he was interviewed on the O'Reilly factor, he was asked about these brief encounters, and he said, most of us in medicine don't think much of HMO medicine. So I think it's important when they talk about the doctor-patient relationship to say, well, you mean you're cracking down on HMOs in these brief visits. The other thing is that doctors have been frightened, particularly in California here, by the Medical Board of California. And so a lot of primary care doctors who have a long-time relationship with their patients are reluctant to see the patients for medical marijuana because they don't know what the repercussions might be for them. The other thing is that our American Academy of Cannabinoid Medicine, one of our goals is to marginalize those doctors that are practicing minimalist medicine. And I would encourage you and people that are interested in this and looking at standards that we think are fair, they may even go a little bit further than the legislature wanted, for doctors that are making these recommendations. I mean, basically, what you need to do is a history and physical and review the patient's medical records. The doctors that are practicing minimalist medicine are undermining the credibility of cannabis and the over 20,000 pieces of basic science and clinical research that's been done that provides the foundation for why cannabis is recognized worldwide as having medicinal value. These doctors that in California, I mean, we've got some guy down at Venice Beach who has a young lady either in shorts or a bikini with a sign, $49.95, and I've heard you can see the line move. Well, I don't think he's doing anybody but himself any favors. I know I went up and testified at a case in San Luis Obispo. The assistant DA said, well, doctor, how long did you spend with the patient? I said I spent about an hour, maybe a little more. And he didn't ask me any more questions. That was the end of that. Now, you don't have to spend an hour with the patient, but you do need to do a history, you need to do a physical, and you need to review the medical records. And this is not difficult to do. And what I would suggest is that either the local government or the state government require people to be certified by the American Academy of Cannabinoid Medicine or some similar group that's in your state, and to take a look at the
law, right,
the standards that we've set, and to just require people to practice reasonable, good, decent medicine. It sounds like they don't understand how medicine is practiced in the United States in the 21st century.
You hit on a very important point, and I was talking about this today, and it's been one of my mantras here. And it is that the day of the one-stop certifications are over. That whole procedure, and we know what it is, and I'm not necessarily against it, and I understand it because some people don't have access, and there's not a lot of doctors in the area, and they need to do that. But it is that which brought the negative attention. In any debate I've ever been in, you always have my opponent reaching into their bag and pulling out some rag magazine with a picture of a sexy nurse, as you alluded to, and that's not medicine. And that's always going to be the dark, eye on all this. And but at the same time, I agree that from within the medical marijuana community, the physicians that are participating, by some simple standards, that they're just consistent. That and I blame much of the community because I think the patient should have more responsibility in maintaining their chart, knowing where their chart is, knowing who their doctor is, and making sure that their doctor is in touch with them in some capacity throughout the year, so in case you get called in on a case or the person's arrested, you got someone who's there for you, who knows you and knows your condition. Because anything short of that, there's no need to get that's the whole thing here. It's unfortunate that the whole procedure of getting a card and getting certified is essentially to protect yourself when you get arrested. So if what stands behind the card is some facade at the circus, so come get your card at the circus. I agree with you, and I think that the stories that I've heard this last couple of weeks, we just had we have these bills that are pending that are looking to amend the definition of a bona fide doctor-patient relationship, and then the Licensing and Regulatory Affairs Committee, which is a administrative agency, sent out regulations for the doctors certifying patients to follow. Now, we think this is a much better solution. At least you have doctors who oversee doctors anyways, giving suggested guidelines, and doctors then, of course, can implement them into their program. But the idea that there's going to be this legislative change and that it's going to take away from the doctors' right to make these own decisions. But my point is this: all these other Skype, and I'm not saying all Skype is bad, but these other fly-by-night places, they've picked up and left town. I heard from other compassion clubs that they went to their place that they used to take their patients to get certified, and all their records are gone, and they can't find them anymore. We were laughing. One of the advertisements in one of the magazines was, "Can't find your doctor from last year? Call us." And this is true. And I didn't mean to go on, but you are right, and I just wanted to make that point. And I wanted people to listen to the doctor. This is what we're talking about. There needs to be, it's not a lot of effort. It's just a responsibility of the patient to go to a physician that is going to overview you while you are using cannabis.
Right, and the more that the doctor really knows your history and knows your condition, the better job they'll be able to do. I do expert witness testimony all around the state, and there are attorneys in California who, when they have a patient that has a recommendation from another doctor, will say, "Go and see Dr. Bearman because I want him to testify about your need for medical marijuana, not this guy that you saw for 15 minutes. Because they know that I'm going to come across as credible. And that's the problem when you see somebody who spends 15 minutes with you, or 10 minutes with you, or 5 minutes with you, is what can they say? And if they haven't reviewed your medical records, the assistant district attorney is going to make them look like an idiot, and you're the one that's going to suffer.